Hi there, my name is Caitlin Bandy and this is my channel BandysBooks, and today we are here to do our May Book of the Month predictions. I have been having a blast doing Book of the Month predictions. I've been getting 2 to 3 right per month since I started doing this, and honestly, that's kind of cool, but the bigger thing is that I'm learning a lot more about books that are new releases. I am more aware of what's publishing and who's publishing. I have definitely been paying more attention to debut novels, and generally it's just been a lot of fun trying to figure out what books have the right kind of hype to be picked for a Book of the Month. So here we are again with another month, and I have some really good selections this month. It's very interesting because there are a lot of books publishing, but most of them seem to be in the contemporary fiction or literary fiction categories. There's not a lot of historical fictions, not a lot of thrillers or horror. So you'll notice that some of the categories only have one book that I picked, and some of the categories will have like 4 or 5. It's just kind of a month where it's a little uneven like that. That's okay. I think there's still a lot of really good selections, definitely a lot of books that I'm really excited about. So our first category is going to be thrillers, and we have one book for this category this month. So the first book that I have for thrillers is Bad Summer People by Emma Rosenblum. This book has a 3.81 rating and about 121 ratings so far on Goodreads. This book follows a group of 5 friends, and they take over Fire Island every summer. They've been going there for years, and they have all sorts of traditions around this holiday. And this year there is a murder that happens on the island, and all 5 of them, they're terrible people, and they could all equally be as guilty in this murder as the next person. So I think we're going to be spending some time trying to figure out who done it and why. This has such a cool cover. It's got really beachy vibes. I could definitely see reading this poolside or like on the beach. It's, a thriller, but it seems like it's going to be like more of a fun, lighthearted thriller than like a super serious, deep thriller. There's been a decent amount of buzz for this book so far, and I think that this makes sense for a Book of the Month pick. And now for the historical fiction category. This is another category where surprisingly we only have one book this month. Usually I have a really hard time narrowing down historical fiction, but there's just not that many coming out in the month of May. So the one that is, though, sounds really good, and it would not surprise me at all if Book of the Month picked it up. And that's A History of Burning by Janika Oza. This is sitting on Goodreads at a 4.31 with about 93 ratings so far, so very good buzz on the book. This book is described as a sweeping novel that spans continents over the course of a century and shows how one single act of survival can affect generations to come. This is a debut novel, and the content of this book really seems like something that Book of the Month would gravitate towards. It has that expansive amount of time. It is anchored in a specific country. It is going to follow several generations of family. It reminds me of several books that I've gotten through Book of the Month in past months. So I think this would be a smart pick for them. And now to the romance category, the hardest category for me to pick every single month. I thought for sure that I was gonna crush this category last month. Between Emily Henry and Abby Jimenez, I was certain that one of my picks was gonna end up in Book of the Month selections. And alas, they picked another book that was really popular and well loved, but just not the one that I picked. So let's see if we can do a little bit better with romance this month. The first selection that I have for romance is Summer Reading by Jen McKinley. This is currently rated at about a 4.10 with around 102 ratings so far. This is a book about a summer romance. It's set in Martha's Vineyard, and we have 2 characters, one of which is a massive bookworm and one of which does not read at all. But somehow when they meet, sparks fly, and they're going to be spending the summer together trying to figure out if they can make it work. And I was particularly interested in this story because I noticed that the main female character is formerly a chef, and she's trying to like get her groove back, get back into the chef game. So I'm always like both skeptical and intrigued when people decide to include chefs in their stories. I'm always rooting for them to be well characterized and well fleshed out chefs, but alas, usually I'm disappointed. Maybe this one will break that spell. After that, we have Once More with Feeling by Alyssa Sussman. This currently has a 4.01 with about 360 ratings on Goodreads, so that's pretty solid. So this follows Katie, who is an American pop star, and she is in a syrupy sweet relationship with the lead singer of a boy band named Ryan. And all is well until she realizes that she has feelings for Ryan's bandmate, a brooding, quiet, thoughtful type of guy named Cal. When they have an affair and it comes out, it ruins Cal and Katie's careers, and they kind of fade away. Years later, Katie, now renamed Kathleen, is contacted by Cal. He's putting on a Broadway musical, and he wants her to come be part of his show two of them are gonna reconnect and maybe sparks are gonna fly, or maybe it will just be frustration. I feel like this would be a really good pick for book of the month. It seems like it's gonna be a fun romance, a little bit different than the usual. The aesthetic of the book cover is very similar to some of the previous romances that book of the month has picked out. I just feel like this kind of stays right in the lane of romance that they typically go for. Now onto the fiction category. So we're going to combine contemporary fiction and literary fiction into the same category. I have a handful of selections for this one. This is probably the most expansive category this month. I really had a hard time narrowing it down to just these 5 picks. My first pick for the fiction category is going to be Late Bloomers, and that's by Deepa Varadarajan. That currently has a 3.98 rating with about 125 reviews, and I've been seeing a bit of quiet hype for this book. It is a debut novel, which we know Book of the Month loves, and it follows an Indian American family as their life is turned upside down when mom and dad decide they're going to get divorced after 36 years in an arranged marriage. So this story is going to follow the whole family. I believe it follows mom, dad, and their 2 children as they deal with the fallout from the divorce. Dad's going to learn how to internet date. Mom is going to find herself under the attentive eye of a 60-something-year-old professor, and the 2 kiddos are going to try to figure out how to cope with their parents' new status and relationship. I think this sounds like a lot of fun. I'm super stoked because I have an ARC copy of that I'm actually planning to read this month. It looks like it's going to be a good, fun read. Then I have another debut, and that's Notes on Her Color by Jennifer Neal. This has a solid 4-star rating with about 19 reviews so far. It's a little bit less hype than some of the other books on this list, but I feel like the description of this book fits so well with what Book of the Month loves. This is described as Florida kitsch meets magical realism, and it follows a young Black Indigenous woman who has discovered that she has the ability to change her skin color. She has mixed feelings about this, but she has kind of an unhealthy relationship with her mother and her father and feels a lot of pressure to continuously pass for white. I think this book is not only going to just deal with race and like the pressure to pass or look a certain way, it's also going to deal with the consequences on one's mental health in passing and in denying their own identity. And I think it's going to be about our main character finding the confidence to just be unequivocally who she is. I think this one sounds really good. It sounds super emotional. It's got a lot of relevant topics, and I know that it doesn't quite have the same buzz as some of the other books on this list, but I think it would be a smart choice from Book of the Month. And it's a debut, which, you know, they like to pick up debuts. Next up is Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Boulley. This is the very popular author of Firekeeper's Daughter, and this book is already receiving really good feedback. It currently has a 4.58 with about 143 reviews on Goodreads so far. This book follows our main character named Perry. She is currently working her summer away, trying to save up money to pay back her Auntie Donis for the damage that she caused on her car. And throughout the summer of reconciliation, basically, she ends up at a local university for a meeting and is privy to a discussion about the remains of an Indigenous person that are being housed in a local museum. She takes a particular interest in this and starts to research how you get the remains of an Indigenous person repatriated to their local tribe and reservation. I think this book is going to follow her as she tries to do exactly that. And it sounds really interesting. I don't know that much about this process. I do know that there is a way to petition the government for that, I believe, but I'm really interested in learning more. And Angeline Boulley is such a fantastic writer. I loved Firekeeper's Daughter, so I would love to see this as a Book of the Month option as well. My next selection is The Celebrants by Stephen Rowley. This book currently sits at a 4.15 with about 223 ratings on Goodreads so far. This is by the beloved author of The Guncle. I don't know anybody that's read The Guncle and didn't get the warm fuzzies from it. This one looks to be similar in that it is kind of a cozy, humorous, feel-good kind of a story, I think. This book follows a group of friends who have made a pact to have living funerals for each other after the tragic death of one of their friends, and they get together every few years to update these living funerals. So I think this is going to be full of a lot of laughs. I think it's going to look at some poignant things like death and what it means when we lose someone we're close to, but I think that ultimately this is going to be a nice, cozy, feel-good story, and I am here for it. And for my fifth selection in the fiction category, we have The Collected Regrets of Clover by Mickey Brammer. This currently sits at a 4.33 with about 430 reviews so far on Goodreads. This book has been getting a lot of hype. I've been seeing a lot of buzz on like all the different sites. When you look at like books that are releasing in May, all the books that have the most anticipation, this is always on the list. So I feel like this is probably a pretty solid pick for book of the month. This book follows a woman who works as a death doula and helps basically usher people out of their lives. And in that process of dealing with death constantly, she's kind of forgotten how to live her own life. So I think this is going to follow her as she examines what she wants in life and how she's going to get there. I've been hearing really good things about this, and like I said, there's a lot of hype around this book already. It is a debut novel, which we know Book of the Month likes, and with the good feedback and that continued shouting about it, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Book of the Month pick it up. Now for our fantasy and science fiction category, I have 3 fairly strong picks for this one, I think. So let's go ahead and dive right in. The first pick that I have is called The Book That Wouldn't Burn, and it's by Mark Lawrence. I was immediately drawn to this book by the cover. First of all, the cover is amazing, and it speaks to something that I think not only does Book of the Month love, but I feel like most of us readers love as well, and that's big, expansive libraries. This currently sits on Goodreads with a 4.34 and about 82 ratings so far. This book follows 2 characters. We have a boy who has spent his entire life inside this expansive library that's older than most settlements. And then we have a girl who spent all of her life in a settlement where nightmares stalk and no one goes. Somehow their stories are going to weave together across worlds and times. And this sounds so good to me. Like I said, I love the library theme. I love the aesthetic of the book. I love that fantasy element. I feel like this could be a sleeper pick for Book of the Month. I haven't heard a lot of hype about this book. I only found it like during my research. It wasn't something that was popping up on a ton of lists, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh, this would be a great fantasy selection. After that, we have Chain Gang All-Stars. I know, don't hate me. I've picked this already in a previous month. This was written by Nana Kwame Adjebrenya, and it is a debut novel. It currently has a 4.37 and about 203 ratings on Goodreads, but I don't know if that adequately sums up the hype that is following this book. This is a dystopian fic based on the American prison system. We have female prisoners who are forced to fight each other like gladiators for their freedom. And we have a prison system that is just raking in the cash from the spectators wanting to see these modern day gladiators. This sounds dark. It sounds like there might be some humor mixed in, but ultimately I think this is going to be a searing critique of America's current prison system and where it could go in a dark future. After that, we have Atalanta by Jennifer Saint. This currently has a 4.12 with about 269 ratings on Goodreads so far. Let me just get this out here. I've been picking a Greek mythology book almost every single month since I started doing this, and as of yet, Book of the Month has not delivered. So Book of the Month, if you're listening, please let's get some Greek mythology going here. This one looks to be so good, so here's an excellent chance for you to fulfill that request. This follows Atalanta, a fierce huntress who's been raised by bears. She's warned by Artemis that she can never be married because it'll be her downfall, and then she's given a chance to fight alongside some of the world's best male warriors and to make her mark on the world. But when she starts to have an affair, she questions what Artemis's motives are around her love life and relationships. I am a big fan of Jennifer Saint. Book of the Month previously featured Ariadne, and I actually just read Electra by her like last month and really enjoyed it. So I would love to see Atalanta picked. I think it would be a nice balance for some of the things that they've been picking out lately, but we'll see. I've been striking out on the mythology requests so far, so. And finally, we're gonna go with another category today because I have 3 selections and each of the 3 books is in a different genre. First up, we have Yellowface by R.F. Kuang. This is a book that is getting a lot of hype already. It has a 4.17 with about 1,300 ratings so far, so obviously it's getting good feedback from early readers. This follows a character named Juniper Song, who is not who she says she is. The book that she claims to have written, she definitely did not write. And furthermore, she's definitely not Asian. In fact, most of that is a story that she stole from her classmate Athena Liu after Athena is tragically killed in a car accident. Juniper is feeling insecure with her own failures to make it in the writing industry and steals Athena's work post-mortem and finds some success pretending to be something that she's clearly not. I believe that this is a satire, and I think it is a heavy critique of the publishing industry. I've heard some good feedback about this, and R.F. Kuang has been a successful Book of the Month pick in the past for Babel, so I wouldn't at all be surprised to see this one get picked. After that, we have a book of essays. It's called Quietly Hostile by Samantha Irby. This is currently rated at a 3.94 with about 175 ratings on Goodreads. This is a series of essays that are self-deprecating and humorous that follow Samantha's life in all sorts of different moments, from walking the red carpet with the glamorous women of Sex and the City to being denied entry at a local restaurant due to her ugly attire. I think this is going to be a very lighthearted series of essays, and it's receiving a lot of hype as well. On almost every single list that I looked at for books that are releasing in May, this is one of the ones that people seem to be the most excited about. And my last pick for this month is a memoir. It's called Horse Barbie, and it's by Gina Rosero. It currently has a 4.83 rating with about 18 reviews so far. I actually have an ARC copy of this, and I've just started reading it a little bit ago. It's really good so far. I think this would make an excellent book of the month pick. This follows a young Filipina trans pageant queen as she goes from being a well-respected and well-revered pageant queen in the Philippines to trying to make it as a model in New York City. And as she tries to build this career as a model, she feels herself being forced back into the closet. And I think this is reckoning with authenticity and who we are inside, and, you know, being loud and proud about our identity. I think she has to come to terms with, you know, is the modeling career worth being in the closet? I have seen a lot of really positive feedback on this book so far. I'm loving it so far. I'm just a little ways in, but the writing is really, really good. And I feel like this would be an excellent pick for book of the month. So those are my predictions. I hope that you found them interesting. Maybe you've found a few books to add to your list, whether they end up in book of the month or not. Otherwise, if you like this video, hit the thumbs up, comment down below, and let me know, are there any books that you know of that are releasing in May that you think should be in the book of the month box? Did I miss anything that you think that I predicted that's just kind of like way out there? And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button down below, as well as the notification bell, so that way you never miss a video and we can see each other again soon. Thanks so much for joining. Bye.